our work right now on the planet is to bring honoring and sanctity to the invisible just as much as the visible. The invisible results are things like feeling good, things like feeling connected, things like our health, our well-being, a feeling of joy, pleasure.
Embodiment can't be faked once you're in an open state where you actually can see through a clear lens. You know, you're not clouded by fear, you're not clouded by the amygdala, you're not clouded by society's news and all the fear-based stuff, and you're just with you. Then you get to decide where you think we actually are.
Energy is information. We're here to experience the full spectrum.
That worthiness is hard for you. There's nothing wrong with you. It is a muscle that we kind of have to learn how to access. You are not disempowered, and you have power in every area of your life all the time.
I believe that chronic illness is an opportunity for us to heal.
Health, it's a choice. Listening to your body if you so choose.
My prayer for the world would be that they would know the infinite love of God.
Aloha and welcome to the Body and Soul Wisdom Podcast, formerly known as the Embodied Healing Self Podcast, with your host, jenmons. Join me each week for soul-inspired, conscious conversations around awakening to your soul purpose through 5-element well-being. Thank you so much for joining in. Aloha, my podcast family. Welcome back to the Body and Soul Wisdom Podcast for another week with your host, Jen Mons, where we come together every week to create conscious conversations around living in clarity and confidence and freedom through 5-element well-being: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and financial. We're going to dive into the topic of freedom today. And I want to begin by inviting you to ask yourself, what does freedom mean to me? What does freedom mean to me? Now, for some of you, you're thinking in terms of, we just celebrated Independence Day a month ago. And I myself, raised in a military family, joined the military, had an idea of what freedom was. And I'm super grateful for all of the people who came before us so that we can have the freedom that we have living in the country that we live in today. My definition of freedom has changed over the years, and I talk a lot about time and financial freedom. And I want to invite you into this conversation because I've been noticing some things with the women that I work with and in our mastermind, in our group circle, that we can talk about freedom and we have different ideas of what that means. When I talk about time and money, I talk about being the source of time, the source of money. So as a reminder, if you haven't caught any of those previous episodes where we talk about anything related to time or money or even creativity, relationships, health, everything really, it's a choice. And so freedom to me equals choice. We get to choose because we are the source. We are the source of our time. We get to choose how we spend our time every day. We are the source of our money. We get to choose how we receive it and how we spend the money that goes out. So when we look at our relationship to time and money in terms of the idea of freedom, meaning choice, it might, for you, I know it does for me, it might give you permission to relax a little bit, let go of the control, and really settle into allowing yourself to experience freedom through time and money. Here's something that I've noticed. In the work that I do, I support women, and a very specific type of woman, a woman who loves to live life, wants to be a leader or is a leader, either corporate or executively, or is an entrepreneur. So kind of that feminine CEO where the E is either executive or entrepreneur, but they have a very entrepreneurial spirit. They have a growth mindset. They're creative. They want to lead. They want to create an impact. And they've been taught to do this in a way that works, but it's also exhausting. The way of hustling, the way of proving, validating, getting another certification, doing another thing, We went from 6 figures to 7 figures to now 8 figures. Like we always have our goal way outside of us. And what we do in my mastermind, in our community, is we really begin to build the foundation from the inside out through those 5 elements of well-being, through physical health and nutrition and movement, through emotional healing and shadow work, through mindset and applying a growth mindset, through our spiritual growth, the soul wisdom imprinting that is held within our physical body in this realm, in this dimension. It's what our soul came here to do, aligning to our values, aligning our life to our values, our spiritual gifts and talents, and then healing our relationship to money and receiving and prosperity, which is where we are at a collective level globally right now, especially women. So we've kind of been watching, the white male dominate the world for many, many years, and things are changing. And so you're either in this shift or you're not. Hopefully you are, because you're listening to this show. My clients sometimes can be my best teachers. And one of the things that in a group mastermind circle the other day that really came to me is that sometimes for us, freedom means comfort, and sometimes freedom is the opposite of comfort. So what do I mean by that? I'm going to take myself for an example. I am a person who believes, for me, that there's always a growth edge. And the growth edge for me is actually to be comfortable with where I am. I'm in the world of transformation. I'm in the world of mentoring and coaching women to transform their lives. I carry a lot of snake medicine. I have many, many stories just around snake medicine, meaning the energy of transformation. And that's actually where I'm most comfortable. So the growth edge for me is actually to notice the discomfort of acceptance and stillness and comfort with what is. Now, I've worked with many women who have done all kinds of things. Some of them have transitioned from one corporate job to another. Some of them have left corporate to create their own thriving business, whether it's to create retreats or write a book or start consulting, making the same amount of money, working half the time so that they can travel more. Or some women have left one job to enter their dream job, increase, triple, quadruple their income. I'm just trying to think. I'm running through all of the ladies' faces in my mind right now and all of the change and the growth that women in our mastermind in our community are making. And it's awesome. Like it's just so amazing what we can do when we're supported and surrounded by like and like-minded people, when we have somebody in our corner supporting us, clearing our blind spots, giving it to us in a very nurturing, but also a very loving and compassionate, but authentic way, like really just speaking the truth. So many amazing changes I've just witnessed in women welcoming the love of their life in, getting married, increasing their income, creating their dream business, their dream events. It's really awesome. So, okay, I'm going off track a little bit. I was kind of having a moment of just thinking of all of the amazing things that women, that we get to do when we work together. And, for some of those women, especially some of my higher level executives, and depending on what age you are or where you're at in your life, your goals may change. And I want to give you permission to just allow that to happen. The goals of a 20-year-old who hasn't started a family yet and is just starting a business are going to be very different than the goal of a woman who's in her 50s and she is stepping into that crone, that wisdom archetype of really letting go, surrendering, and relaxing into kind of the next chapter of life. Maybe she's getting close to retirement. Maybe she's thinking of creating her dream job. I've supported women through that process from leaving retirement. I'll take Abby as an example. She was super fun to work with, retired after a career in the Air Force, and is now living in Costa Rica and hosting amazing retreats for female veterans, which is just so needed and so amazing. And so the goals that we have as a 30-year-old entrepreneur and maybe a 40-year-old who has a 30s or 40s, a growing family, versus a woman who's in her late 40s, such as mid to late 40s like myself, or 50s, what we're focusing on, what our values are going to be very different. Because when you have kids and you're raising a family, there's a lot of energy that you get to pour into that. And it might seem like it takes a lot of time at the time, but it actually goes very fast. And so you get to do that. You get to raise a family. You get to pour into them. You get to support your children. You get to be in a marriage. You get to support the partner that you are in union with. You get to support their hopes and dreams. All good things. And what I realized is that it's important for each of us to understand what freedom means to us and allow that to change. Are you at a point in your life where you're seeking financial freedom so that you can travel more, so that you can maybe use, if financial freedom equals choice, is that choice for you to travel more? Is it to invest in yourself more? Is it to invest in something outside of yourself, like real estate, or, some support, maybe for your health? Is it to invest in other people? Is it to support a nonprofit? Is it to get your passion project going? Write that book, start that podcast, write that speech if you want to be a speaker, create that business, create that event, that retreat, those classes. So many options that you could do if you step into the true frequency of freedom. For some of us, and I support both executives and entrepreneurs, and one of the things that I've been noticing is that I have two types of ladies. Some ladies decide they want to stay in their corporate careers because it's serving them. I always talk about like where you are is the vehicle for the next thing. So if you're sitting here listening to this podcast and maybe you see my social media feed, you see how much I travel, you see what I've created, the freedom to travel, and I call that financial freedom. For me is the freedom of choice and the freedom to travel. For some people, financial freedom is being an 8-figure business owner. That gives you more choice to do that. I am not an 8-figure business owner. However, I still have the freedom to choose how I spend my time and where I spend my money because I am supported and resourced in that way. The women that I support sometimes realize that where they are being supported is through their job financially, and that job creates comfort that they don't have to, they're not in a place where they want to go out and create a business like I have done. So although we both value freedom for, let's say, an executive might look like freedom to be comfortable. Their comfort in their job at the moment is providing the freedom to maybe even think about what the next thing is going to be. Maybe it's the freedom to travel without worrying where the money's going to come from. And on the other end of the spectrum, if you're an entrepreneur, freedom for you might not have anything to do with comfort because in my experience, there's not a whole lot of comfort, at least in the very beginning stages of being an entrepreneur, because there's a lot of investing and giving that goes into your business. There's a lot of what you perceive as failure that only gives you clarity about what's not working, but that's how you get to be successful, by learning what's not working. And so if you're on this show, if you're in my mastermind, if you're in any of my circles, because this question does come up with a lot of the women that I work with, both executives and entrepreneurs. Am I happy in the work I'm doing? And do I want to leave my corporate job or my current situation to create my own business doing work I love? And am I willing to give this up, this comfort up, in order to have more of a different type of freedom in my life? And the answer is going to be different for everybody. And I really believe it's based on what your soul came here to do. You have soul gifts. You can either choose to show up in those at your current role, in your home, at your job, or you can choose to fully express those through the business that you create as an entrepreneur in your business. Both of them have highs and lows. Both of them have ups and downs. There's a lot more potential and growth available, I think, when you're on the path of working for yourself, just because you're not limited by the company that you work for or your boss or a paycheck. So there's a little bit, or I would say a lot more growth mindset involved in that. But you can take that growth mindset and you can create change and implement change in your workplace. But there's a lot more freedom when you make it your way. There's also a lot of grit that comes with that. So this is where you get to decide. If you're sitting here questioning, asking yourself, am I happy in my current workplace? Do I want to try something else? Is there something else for me? Is working for myself, because it seems to be happening a lot more these days. There's, with the online community, all of technology has made the world a lot smaller. Many of us are working from home. You see a lot more entrepreneurs. You see a lot of self-made millionaires through the online world. And I often get the question, like, what if I want to do what you want to do? How do I get there? Is it for me? So if you're sitting there asking yourself, is this for me? I would invite you to start with the simple question of, if I value freedom, what does that mean to me? Do I have that feeling of freedom from comfort? Or do I get the freedom from choice? So does freedom mean choice for you, or does freedom mean comfort? And from what I see, if freedom means choice, you're meant to be an entrepreneur. If freedom means comfort, you will be a successful executive. Either way, if you're looking to expand your potential in the realm of freedom, expand your confidence and clarity, I have something I'd like to invite and share with you. I have an event, Wellness, Wisdom, and Wealth, in Jacksonville Beach, Florida, November 2nd and 3rd. And we are going to do exactly this. We are going to do the inner work. Activate your confidence, activate clarity, activate freedom through your shadow work, through movement, through embodiment, through vulnerability. And then we're going to activate prosperity, heal your relationship to money on Friday. And then for those that are really in that growth potential mindset, I have a very special offering for you, a semi-private retreat at my house, limited spots, first come, first serve, where we ignite your passion project. This is where you get to test it out. You get to ask yourself, is there something more I want to do? I have women interested in creating retreats, fitness retreat, yoga retreat, couples retreat, writing a book, signature talk, signature program. Some women are doing this on the side as they are at work. Some of them have completely left corporate and done it full time successfully. Maybe none of this is for you. Maybe you just want to come and connect and activate that spark within you. activate more confidence, more clarity in your life. Let go of the hustle, the overwhelm that is really just you being misaligned. If this speaks to you, we can connect on a call. We'll drop the link for you to connect on a call with me. Or if you want to reserve your spots because spots are limited, go ahead and click the link and reserve your spot. I'd love to have you and support you and invite you to join the hundreds of women who are creating super awesome changes in their life. Thank you so much for joining me again on this conversation of freedom and comfort. I'd like to know what you think. Maybe I'm totally off, but I think there's something there around this conversation that I'm really noticing in the women that have been in the conversations we've been having in our mastermind and our group circles. All right, my dears, have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I'll see you on the podcast again next week. Aloha.
The content of this podcast is to educate, inspire, and inform you of pathways to an embodied healing self. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice from your medical doctor, therapist, registered dietitian, or nutritionist for any questions you may have regarding your diagnosis or condition.
Friends, and thank you so much for joining again each week on the Body and Soul Wisdom podcast, formerly the Embodied Healing Self podcast. I am so deeply honored to share this space with you every week. I know that there are many other podcasts that you could be tuning into, and our community is expanding and growing more with each new episode. I'd like to invite you to come on over to jenmons.com/tribe and receive some of the wonderful gifts that we have for you: a meditation bundle, energetic alignment, 5-element wealth, prosperity consciousness. We have a ton of different gifts available for you to enjoy. Now, we have one small favor to ask. In order for this podcast to get into the hearts and souls of like and light-minded people, we need your support. We would love your review and would love it if you'd head on over to jenmons.com/podcast to leave a review or leave one on iTunes so that we can continue to share the love beyond out into the world. Thank you so much again for joining in. We'll see you next week.